Hi, it's Jeff again with Family Legacy Estate Sale with another one in my series of videos on collectibles. This particular video is going to be on a sports card collection that I just picked up, and I'm just show you some of the highlights of this collection, which spans over 100 years, which was really kind of neat. I personally, my preference is vintage cards from the 50s, 60s, 70s. But I know there are collectors that are actively collecting in the last 20 years. And of course, then there are your hardcore vintage collectors collecting tobacco cards and other cards from the 20s and 30s. So the hobby itself spans, over 100 years, and there's a lot to choose from depending on what you want to collect. This particular collection had a nice cross section of each, which was very, very interesting to me. So again, I'm going to share some of the highlights of the collection with you. Again, these will be available for sale on our website, www.familylegacyestatesale.com, up in the next couple of weeks. Anyway, so let's just start with some of the newer items. There happen to be quite a few of these Topps archived signature cards. A number of Hall of Famers. Here's Rollie Fingers. And then there's Dennis Eckersley. Okay. And these are 34 of 44. So 44 of that one, and the Fingers, there was 34 of them signed. So relatively low population. I know the card companies, to drive interest, tend to limit the production of autographed cards to drive up the value and the interest in the hobby. There also happen to be some rarer ones. Also, they're from the Topps Archive line, but there was a Reggie Jackson, and this is one of one. So for this particular year, which was 2020, there was only one card signed by Reggie Jackson. Similarly, here's Cal Ripken. The same thing. This is one of one. Same thing for John Smoltz. And then finally, Carl Yastrzemski. So the previous owner of these cards had an interest in getting low population cards. So that should help the value on those. There was also some newer graded cards. This happens to be by AGS, which I think is an internet-based grading company. So I think they use computers to scan the card and grade them. It's not as popular as PSA or Beckett, but can anybody tell the difference between a 10 and a 9.5 or a 9? It's really, really tough to tell. This one came back as a 10. It's a Frank Thomas Leaf rookie card from 1990. So that's a nice little addition to somebody's collection when they buy it. There was a PSA authenticated signature of Judy Johnson, which was, his name is William Judy Johnson, who was a Negro League player back in the 30s, I believe. So, and he actually made it to the Major League Baseball later on in his career as a coach. So they say he was known as the Black Pie Trainer. And Pie Trainer, for those of you who are not familiar with him, was a fantastic Hall of Fame third baseman in Major League Baseball, going back 90 to 100 years ago now. Some bigger names most baseball fans are going to be aware of. Here's a really nice EX condition 1959 Frank Robinson card, and he's a Hall of Famer. Bob Gibson, I think this is 1960. Bob Gibson died a year or two ago, I believe, and this is another really nice EX condition card. I think this is his second year. This isn't one of his earlier cards, but here's a 1954 Ted Williams, also a really big name and Hall of Famer. Card's in nice solid VG condition. Here's another one that's a VG condition. This is a 1966 Mickey Mantle. Everybody knows Mickey Mantle, and he's a Hall of Famer. And here's a little bit different card, because in the 60s, really Topps was the only people making cards. But Fleer in 1960 put out a set of cards, and they didn't have any current players, I don't believe. But they did have all Hall of Famers, or primarily Hall of Famers. And this happens to be Jimmie Foxx, who was one of the great hitters of all time for the Kansas City A's or the Philadelphia A's back in the 20s and 30s. And this card is absolutely beautiful. Centering is a little bit off, but it's probably an excellent mint condition. And then there happen to be some real bonuses here for me, because I had never owned any of these before, but there was a series of tobacco cards. This happens to be a T205 card from 1911, and it's in relatively good condition for its age, and just being a piece of cardboard, and back then no one thought to keep anything. Here's another one. This is a T206 series, and T206, for those of you who are not familiar, that's the series that the very valuable Honus Wagner card comes from. These are not big name players, but they're neat nonetheless. And you can see on the back, they're tobacco cards. That's Piedmont Cigarettes or Piedmont Tobacco. This is a company called Hassan Tobacco. And there's a few others as well. Another T206 series. Here's another T205 with a Piedmont back. And here's a T205 as well, another one. And again, it's got the name of the manufacturer, the cigarettes on the back. So very neat stuff. These are going to be all up for sale on our website, like I said, within the next couple of weeks. So be on the lookout for that. Again, it's www.familylegacyestatesale.com. And be on the lookout for additional videos. We're coming into inventory all the time. So like our Facebook page, like this video on YouTube, and you'll see the updates as they come out. We'll be talking to you soon.